Did this raid get cut from Dragonflight? Now, we recently just talked about yesterday, I dropped a video about how 10.2 will in fact be the final raid of this expansion. But is that because there was cut content? I personally don't think so, but maybe Bellular knows something I don't here. Let's see what they're talking about with 10.3 and what could have been.
10.2.
We in fact do know that there was cut content from Shadowlands, and that was why there were 3 raids. But I kind of think Dragonflight was more by design.
This time.
Yeah,
Let's see.
10.2 was the end. Right?
It was the end.
Then the question is, was there ever supposed to be any more?
I love talking about cut content.
Was there ever
Yes!
supposed to be a 10.3? Was there something in the middle that we missed? Is there perhaps a big
Maybe
magical
some story
power that was very
content?
heavily implied to be super important to the world in the middle of the
Wow, Steve
level up
Jobs
story,
and WoW Shear.
and then no one mentioned it again? Was there perhaps something
It was icy.
called Vakthros?
Yes. Very icy place. Like our.
Oh my
icy-
god, I remember this in the cinematic. Yeah, you guys remember this like icy... We never went here. What the hell? This looks so cool in the cinematic. Yeah, I forgot about that shit. Oh. Yeah, maybe there was more blue Dragonflight stuff to be had. I don't know.
The primal
Or
incarnate.
more what's her name? The one who's now who is now part of the Dragonflights, the ice girl. My god, I forgot her name. Maybe she had more of a role to play. She was supposed to have her own raid. Her story
Yes,
did seem
so
rushed.
This is all fairly interesting. There's like a few candidates for cut content or things being different. One of the more obvious ones was the Bronze Dragons. Another one was Vakthros, and sort of people were realizing, as Night Stalker is pointing out here, like Vakthros is the main. It is the main
big part of the cinematic.
structure of the Azure Span, which you can see in the concept art there.
Yeah.
Also, it's its own like little micro zone in the map. You know those places in the map, like, you mouse over Shatterat City and Warlords of Draenor, and you're like, oh, that must be a raid. And nothing happens. Hey, look at him.
Oh, you fucker.
That
Just
was
wanted
cut
more hoof
content.
content.
That was cut content.
So Vakthros is like that, and it's a bit weird. Now, there is, if you fly to the very top platform on Vakthros, what you'll find is a message from from Malagos. And this message basically, okay, so this is in fact integral to the
Panda
plot of
dropping
the
the knowledge.
expansion. And I don't think anybody noticed it while it happened.
Oh, I did, and then
So-
forgot.
What happened is Malagos drew all the ley lines in the Dragon Isles together into Vakthros, right? And
Okay.
whatever that did, all the power there was partially instrumental in upholding
move my,
the seals on the vault where the other incarnates were imprisoned. So when Razageth appears there, and she basically says, Lamau, even if I fail, I win in the level up campaign. That's
Oh,
because
yeah.
just by disrupting the area,
Dumb
she
bitch, we
disrupts
killed
the
her.
tower, weakens the tower, and then that is what allows her ultimately to free all her mates while she gets herself killed.
Right.
So you could say, and the other thing about the ley lines is basically, if that goes tits up, the Azure Span blows up.
Yeah.
Now,
It's a
there's two
literal
ways
living
this could
bomb. Like this thing, this thing could explode the entire part of the continent.
go. Way number one is that what
It's a lot of
happened in
power.
the game is, yep, that's what Vakthros is. It's a major quest POI, which is why it looks like that in the map, and that's it. We've already went through those plot points, and
Yeah.
the Vakthros maintenance message from Malagos. Yeah, that's what Razageth was doing. That's it. The other side of that is, was there more? You look at this, you're like, this is very icy. What is this big ice magic tower? Could this
Yeah.
have had anything to do with the ice magic, Primalist? Also, why was the Primalist future very frosty?
Especially when you consider, well, where did the fire boy go? Into the fire hole with all the fire?
What?
Where did Farak
Oh,
went
yeah,
underground
Farak,
into the
yeah.
lava place? And then where's Vernoth? Emerald Dream?
Very rapid
Yeah.
10-minute discussion.
Yeah, Viranoth had a the most like washed out story of the 3 Primalists. Like Farak, we've got a ton of stuff about. We saw his corruption and all that shit, and then he's gonna get more in the Emerald Dream. Eridikron obviously has been doing his background super villain kind of shit the entire expansion, but Viranoth, her story felt like really rushed. Like that's what everyone was like, what the hell? Like when she just showed up all of a sudden and talk to Alexstrasza and join the Dragonflights. That felt like super rushed. So maybe this was supposed to be part of her storyline that kind of got cut out. And it does make sense with all the ice crystals everywhere and everything.
Russian patch.
Yeah.
Fury incarnate.
Yeah, 5 minutes of, hello, Remit. I will never trust you. Frack
Let's team up.
turns one green boy red.
Yeah.
And she goes, hello, Remit. Let's be friends again.
Yeah,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
exactly. It was very
And I
rushed.
goes, oh, okay, sweet. And I think Veranoth
The
actually
ice was
makes
cut
sense
for a
as a
cake
character, as
patch?
the way
Yeah,
they've, like,
maybe.
taken the forward. But definitely you go, was there a pivot at some point? Now, was the pivot early in the expansion? Was the pivot during expansion production?
I would say during
which was it?
production.
Spam
It feels
grenade, what are you
like
talking-
pretty early during production.
Oh, yeah, I think-
because you've got like all this concept. Well, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I think whatever.
You've got like the concept art and the focus, and it could just be we maybe had this and thought we could do something cool with it, and then
Yeah.
decided not to. Because why would you, like, if you had ideas, why would you not go? Maybe. Maybe this is just a cool tower that they teased and went. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
My hair
But
follicles are
there's
fine.
certainly like, whenever you're getting a 10-2 in a game that for the only other time it's had no 0.3 is because they shot the bed super hard. You go, well,
Yeah,
you know,
it's confirmed. It's not confirmed, but it is basically confirmed that Shadowlands was supposed to have another raid tier. Anduin was supposed to be the final boss in it, and all of that stuff got cut out. That's why Anduin was like, honestly, Anduin was harder than the Jailer, but Anduin's boss fight was super complex, and he just got put into the Sepulchre because I guess they'd already done the entire thing, and they're just like, well, we're going to delete the raid, but we don't have to delete the raid bosses. We'll just move them into this other raid. And the whole Shadowlands story got super rushed out, and we lost an entire raid tier, and that was how that thing worked out. Again, I don't think maybe Dragonflight we lost some content early on, but I don't think that this was like a rush design change, and we only got 3 raids because of that. I think it was kind of designed to only be 3 raids mostly.
That true?
Maybe this is supposed to be a
Warlords,
mega dungeon or
Shadowlands,
something.
right?
Who knows?
Where Warlords, you're like, what happened there? Oh, sorry, we had to cut the middle of it out. Sorry about that. Then Shadowlands, you go, yeah, well,
Okay, so
COVID, we had to cut
If
the
we're
middle
to
of
go
it.
through them, TBC doesn't count.
I
because
find it
it's
hard to
in-
count anything before like Mists.
So you look at Wrath. What's Wrath? Wrath is Naxxramas, which was kind of reused.
Recycled
So
content,
Naxxramas, Ulduar, Trial of the Crusader, which was a quickie, and Icecrown Citadel. Okay. Cataclysm. You had your Cataclysm had 3 tiers.
You had all the small raids there.
So that's the thing. Now Cataclysm
You
had
had
3
RS and all
tiers,
that stuff.
but of course you had Bastion of Twilight, Blackwing Descent, and Alakir
Blackwing Descent,
as your
I remember
first tier.
that.
So it was a pretty chunky tier. You move into Mop. Your first tier was Mogushan Vaults and Heart of Fear, which is like 2 raids but 1 tier overall. Then Throne of Thunder, then Siege of Orgrimmar. 3 raid tiers.
Kinda
Those were
true.
long seasons.
They were very long.
Warlords
This
of Draenor,
this
of
was
course.
underrated, man. It was
Yep,
good.
you
It's good
had
raids.
Highmaul, Blackrock Foundry, and Hellfire.
Supposed to have Shattrath, never got it.
I think it's like, see, in Legion, it was funny because Legion, the way that it was sort of presented to us, it felt like they were doing Blackwing Descent and not Vortex Pinnacle. The one with Valiona and Thraxian.
No, Throne of the Four Winds?
My only
No.
Sam's account.
Valiona and
Crack.
Thraxian, the Cho'Gall's big tower. The first raid in Cataclysm. So the way that felt in
Yeah.
Legion, especially because Emerald Nightmare was tuned to be fairly easy, was that those were like kind of sort of semi the same tier and we weren't really sure. So like WoW has fluctuated between like number of raids and number of tiers.
True.
Yeah. And Tyr's the one that feels more important.
So if
lot
Tyr's
of
the
the
one
time.
that feels more important, then
Because
Mists of
it's-
Pandaria was a 3-tier expansion. Warlords of Draenor was a 3-tier expansion.
They are right. I never thought about that.
In terms of like
I thought there was just
true
more
tier,
raids, but it was still only tiers. 3
Legion
tiers.
was Nighthold, big fucky temple, Antorus.
I feel the classification of Emerald Nightmare is not a real tier. It's a bit funky. It's a bit
It
up in the
did,
air
but
there.
it didn't have. There's like certain boxes that a tier usually ticks that it didn't.
Yeah,
And both raids had a lower boss count.
Yeah, so basically
They
we're
were
struggling
lower
here with
boss
any
counts.
definition whatsoever existing because the game's been so different over the years.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to talk about boss count, Siege of Orgrimmar was 2 fucking raids in one. That place is huge. That was a massive raid. How many did Sepulchre have? Because Sepulchre had bosses added in later. Was Sepulchre a 10 boss raid? Sepulchre of the first ones. Bosses. I want to say that one was also a pretty long in terms of how many bosses that raid tier had. Oh god, this is the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sepulchre of the first ones also had quite a lot of bosses, if I remember right. And then there's the whole like the argument that they're talking about, where you had more raids but the same amount of tiers, 3 tiers. I never thought about it that way, but they're kind of right. It's always almost been 3 tier sets.
But like, so BFA ended up being actually not small
Yeah.
with the totality of all of its
Yeah,
content.
because it was 2 expansions, because it's also in the middle of it. It's not true at all.
Yeah, 'cause I
BFA.
guess you got, well, Little Deer.
Looking back on BFA,
Which was-
I kind of nostalgic for BFA. I'm not going to lie. Azurite Armor, complete shit. But the expansion, BFA, story wasn't too bad. Aesthetically, I loved the Kultiran and the Zandalari aesthetics. They were great. I thought those were 2 really good ones. And the Kultiran storyline that I played through as the Alliance, and then I played through Zandalar as Horde, 2 really good storylines. And what's it called? Siege of Zandalar, whatever the hell. It was a great raid. I love the fact that the Horde and the Alliance had 2 different stories in those.
Was a full tier? No,
Yeah.
it was a full tier,
Yeah,
and
wish
how
it
it's.
wasn't.
I didn't like tier
Yeah,
sets.
so
in
you
it, how
have
they
Little
looked.
Deer, Dazarlor,
Dazarlor,
Eternal
that was
Palace,
the raid I was
and
thinking of.
Ny'alotha, 4 tiers. Pretty chunky. It's just that they came out kind of slow, and the game was borked for a bunch of time. Shadowlands was 3 tiers over far too much time.
Oh, yep.
And now it seems to be 3 tiers plus a fated with a
We're gonna
bunch
get a
more in
fated.
between.
We're going to get it faded.
It's just that I think to people who care about raid tiers, the stuff in between is low quality film and they don't care. But to people who don't care about the raid tiers, this current situation is actually a hell of a lot better. So I almost wonder, whenever Blizzard talks about better player retention, if they're perhaps not talking about the raid dungeon people and maybe they're talking about...
They almost certainly are. They almost certainly
And that's
are.
just speculation, of course, but...
I would be so shocked if they were reporting better, like mostly better retention from those people. I imagine they're reporting better retention from people who log in and have dragon raiding and they feel better doing that. And they have things to do in the world, I'm assuming that's way up, way higher.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that no one can do rares in Zarlak Cavern, but that's a different story. That's maybe a different story. Because they move people out of that zone real quick, and the zone kind of blew.
Yeah, Zarlak.
Yep.
That's why I worry about a whole like underground raid or expansion like based on some underground content. I think Zarlak Caverns was fine. It was cool when we first went there. I'm done with that. I don't care for underground shit. I want to look at a skybox and see something really cool like Hellfire Peninsula. I don't want to look up and just see rocks. So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about underground expansion shit.
So it's hard to know then. Okay, so there's that side of things. You could say that Vakthros, maybe there could have been a raid and some real crazy big shit.
Yeah, I knew it. Sepulchre of the first ones was 11 bosses. So that was a pretty big raid too.
Going on, and instead they maybe cut that and they just used it for the leveling content and moved on. There is, of course, the N'Zoth teases. There's
Underground
one
like a
here
house.
in and around Vakthros. Of course,
Cadence
there's
going
a
shitty, that's
similar
why I'm still
location in Zarlak Cavern that looks quite old god-ish.
Yeah,
and
looks like
teasing.
N'Zoth.
I'd be willing to call that very pure coincidence.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
So what's this community speculation?
Let's find out together.
Pre 10.1.
Yeah, this
I don't know if it was
is,
coincidence, but it was just, I think people tried to read
So
into it
this
more
is a
than it
user
actually
called
was. It
Telogris.
was just a cool thing.
Oh, Telogris, like Telogris Rift.
Yeah. Oh, basically just saying this is too over designed for what it is.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly the fear, right? We're like, yeah, both of these places look like they could have been zones.
Yeah, it's like you put a lot of effort in and maybe you didn't use it as much as you could have.
Yeah,
I think this
and
big thing that it
brings
was in the
us into
cinematic.
discussion of
I do.
was it planned or was it loosely planned or was it cut or was it a fledgling idea in someone's head once, and they went, well, the Azure Span needs a bit that looks cool in it, and they never expected more. They just kind of also had this thing that's.
I mean,
Like,
at
is this
a
a
minimum,
big
it's
thing?
probably cut storyline content. At a minimum. And then in between, it could have been maybe a dungeon that was cut, a little bit bigger than that. It could have been a mega dungeon. Was it a full raid? I don't know. It's just based on what they're saying, it kind of seems ambitious to go 4 raid tiers. It doesn't seem like that's ever been really done. So, so maybe it was a mega dungeon. I don't know.
Thing for the future.
I definitely think there was
the
some
fact that
cut
Khadgar
content there.
was about, but didn't do anything ultimately. How much?
And
Hey,
again, it probably had to do with
Khadgar
fear
helped
enough.
defend the Dragon Isles.
He did.
Yeah, he fended people off bravely
He did.
during Farak assaults.
And the Azure Span.
Yeah.
And the Azure
He
Span.
was kind of key to all of the mages been there in the Azure Span.
Yeah, then he
dealing with
can-
the blue stuff.
Yeah, then he teleports Caligos to safety, and then just chills. Does a Farak assault, goes back, has a beer, relaxed.
Maybe, possibly.
Because it's weird. It's like
Glad you enjoyed it,
and
Moishan.
Khadgar showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of nothing happened.
Yeah, Khadgar really hasn't done anything either. He had an epic moment where he put his hand out, laser, he what's it called? Jedi his staff. He put all the books away. It was a really cool moment. He was there for the Razageth fight, and now he's kind of like, I don't know where Khadgar is. Honestly, I haven't seen him in a while.
So
Well, this
second
is-
mecha dungeon thoughts.
Yeah, the idea of it maybe being part
Maybe
of it.
he'll be
that
there
was-
for
that
the
was a
Farak
plan
fight.
At some point. I don't know if that
See,
was true.
was this
but-
supposed originally part of the Vault of the Incarnate story? Because it is part of the Vault of the Incarnate
Yeah.
story.
See, the early map concepts, I just suppose, was the last one expansion.
What?
I don't know if that's completely true.
Yeah. Oh, so apparently Vault.
Ah.
What?
Interesting.
Oh no, that happens. That's why Razageth attacks Vakthros. She
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
rumbles it up, and
Yeah,
then the seals break, which is a bit weird because they're very far away from each other, and they kind of didn't. I feel like nobody really knew what that.
Oh, it's magic.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Magic question mark. Which is, to be fair, half of WoW's MacGuffin's stuff is just
Mm.
magic question mark. So I cannot wait to find out.
Oh,
how
is he? Is
the
Khadgar
Mother of
fighting
Stone
at one of
has
the
camps?
anything to
Work.
do with the new
Okay.
moon or the embrace or?
I didn't do a lot of the Farak assaults. Yeah, I kind of got quickly sick of that, so maybe I missed that.
I mean, so I can't wait for that to be somehow mentioned. But yeah,
Maybe he's
eh,
turned into a crow. It's just,
I don't know if I
maybe.
believe this in any capacity, but I could.
Yeah, the Farak
because obviously
assaults
it
are
could
still
be
technically
stuff
going
changed.
on. That's
Hang
true.
on, Marlamin. That's a big
Yeah.
brain. Big brain, very wrinkly.
Marlamin.
Wrinkly big brain.
Yeah.
Here's the absolute earliest version of the islands I was able to find. Vault of the Incarnates used to be an island on the bottom right. Oh,
Ah.
which I suppose then
That would make more sense with Akros.
do you know what it would look like?
Seems like this moved it. Oh,
The prison, or the prison dungeon near Borealis. That's just
Hold
like
the gore.
off on the right.
Yeah.
This is just me talking about prison island off to the right. There's no deep meaning at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense.
This is like an
Doesn't it make more
early
sense?
version of the Dragonflight,
Doesn't really
Dragon
matter, does it?
Isles.
So,
I guess it does, but yeah.
do you know what probably should have happened?
What?
Razageth should have done something. And then
So this spot where the world tree is going to end up going, that's always been there. Even in this earlier version, I guess this was always their plan, was to bring a Mirdrasil up through here.
cinematic, we should have seen a humongous magical surge, sort of flow through the world, blow a bunch of shit up, perhaps.
Yeah, we're going to try Mythic again.
blowing shit up through Thaldraszus and maybe destabilizing some bronze stuff, allowing for bad things to happen at the temporal conflux. And then that would simultaneously lead us into Thaldraszus to fix the problem there.
Third tree, the
and
best
then
tree.
also, and of course that could be timed with the rebellion. So, in Thaldraszus you would have had the Draconid
Siegfried.
rebellion and the impact of the tower in the Azure Span being damaged. That could have happened at the exact same time, which could have meant, or made for a really intense, Warlords of Draenor were going into Talador to take Shatrath or whatever, like a big narrative
Yeah,
moment,
that would've
and
been
that would have
awesome.
led directly into the raid. But instead, just you sort of held W.
Honestly,
Something
probably one of the best lead ups into a raid in terms of lore that I've seen in quite a while was Battle for Dazar lore. Because you had the whole quest line with the Alliance where, you were putting the bombs on the ships, setting it all up, and if you played from the Alliance perspective, that was a really cool thing. And then you literally lead to the whole cinematic where the goblin, the gnome, he's trying to, Mechatork's trying to hit the button, and he does, and then all the ships explode, and then you head in. That was a really cool lead up to a raid. Like, there was a whole quest line for it, a cinematic and everything. I love that place. I think that Battle for Dazar lore is still one of the coolest raids in the game.
It's open.
It's open now. Go
Oh
in.
no. Yeah, it's like there wasn't much flair,
All same.
much oomph,
It's
much pizzazz.
It's exactly what we're saying almost at the top of the stream about the connective tissue being super thin and weak. where like where was the Infinites attacking the Bronze Temple, the Temple of Conflux? They just said, and the Infinites took it over. You're like, fuck, did you not think to give us a shout? Like, could you just, we were literally over there in Valdraken. You could have said the bat signal up, went, here, champion, come fight off these boys. But instead they're like, whoops. Sorry about that. Turns out they got it. We weren't paying attention.
Nice.
So I guess there's a little bit of that, yeah.
Is it not on
That's the
Gamecast?
stuff that
Camp
feels a little
Shady?
bit weaker for whatever reason. Maybe just spread too thin.
Yeah,
It is spread.
because you could imagine a Warlords of Draenor that like didn't have most of its main narrative moments, and it would kind of just be you sort of, you sort of
Pottered about like.
It's just your equivalent of wandering around the yard on a Sunday.
It's
Talking
true.
about going, there's some orc stuff here. There's some nature here. What are these bird people?
Story.
What are these Arakoa? Boy, they have a real lot of lore. It's a shame they don't reuse those more.
Yeah, funny stuff. So that was a fun like kind of community rumor that was spreading all over the place. Yeah. And certainly it's not a poorly founded one, because people are, they're thinking about cut content because one of the times this famously happened was Shatrath, and then recently in Shadowlands, of course, the content cadence was a bit slower. It seemed like Blizzard tried to save that by doing the Fated raid tier.
They're going to do Fated Raid again in Dragonflight. I guarantee.
Which is to say, has the quick and dirty savior fix now became the norm because we've been
it's become a
price
feature.
anchored to a lower standard?
Let's find out, because I love paying more money for less content. You should see the price of things around where I live.
Yeah, no, it's they're right about a lot of this stuff. Whether or not there was actually a cut raid, I don't know about that. Looking back at the other stuff, probably not, considering there's been 3 raid tiers for almost every expansion now, and that's what we're going to get. Maybe it could have been more storyline content, a mega dungeon, something else. But here we are with 10.2 being the final raid tier. That is all but guaranteed at this point.